Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the changes to my legendary tier list in Creature Quest. So, the last time I updated this tier list was about a month's time ago, and since that time there actually have been quite a few different shifts in the meta in terms of what is powerful and or viable from a legendary creature point of view. So, with the Kingdom Shrines now active, as well as the removal of Empty Wave stun meta, the dungeon defense strategy has definitely become more focused on kind of the nuking idea. Basically, you want to try and nuke and obliterate and remove a single card right away to remove their combo synergy, and then allow your significantly amplified boss from shrines to hopefully finish off the opposing team. Of course, that being said, floor 1 tends to be where a lot of defenses are won, so floor 1 tends to still be the strongest point available. However, because the strategy now has been revolved around trying to remove certain key targets, the utilization of a Resurrector, such as Astral Watcher, has become incredibly powerful at this point in time, as well as the fact that a lot of floor 1s tend to have a very dark, heavy focus to try and remove him right away. So, stunning used to be the most horrible and or frustrating mechanic in Creature Quest because dungeon defenders were able to stun you repeatedly. Normally when you are playing, you cannot stun something repeatedly. You hit them once and you stun them, they go through all their, then you go through all your turns, and when they go down to the end, they can take an action. You can re-stun them after they take an action, but beforehand, dungeon defenders could stun you forever, and you basically would possibly touch your team once or twice, and then you could just put down your device and just watch your team die because you get stunned for the next minute or so, and then it's not a fun mechanic. So they removed the ability to stun lock your team, so that's why the shift has been more to like the one-shot meta. Stunning is still good for breaking up, preventing mana from being generated or combo dot synergy or multipliers being inactive, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be. So because of that, we have a lot more diversity in dungeons, which I think is exciting. So at this point in time, no one is able to feasibly run 5 full dungeons for the full silence and stun immunity. That might take a very long time for that to occur. The most I've ever done successfully is 2. I could probably do a third one because I do have enough totems lying around, but even then that's really pushing it, and I don't think I represent the average player either. So, Dungeon 2.0 buffs. So basically, we have all these rotating color buffs, so it kind of makes one color very strong for 1 week. But the problem is it's only one color, and it becomes very challenging for a newer player to pursue that because if you don't have a deep creature box, you're not going to be able to fulfill a dungeon well, and you're better off using sometimes just one strongly well-crafted dungeon. So in my tier list, I have up and down arrows to designate if creatures have moved up or down based on the last time. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that these lists assume they're all fully awoken and equal number of combo dots. However, because 4 dots tend to be so rare, if you have something that's 4 dot, even though it's less or lower ranked, it tends to be more valuable to yourself because, well, you have the access to something that has the ability to generate more mana. So, new criteria for offense. Basically, I'm just going to update this section every time something happens. So, we will now, to a certain extent, have to plan our team around the fact that the opposing boss will be able to cast a special ability if they have stun and silence. So, we had to accept the fact that we're going to be absorbing an attack. It's not really feasible at this point in time, but some people are starting to get to that point where they can run things like that. So because of that, debuffers have become more prevalent because that's the only way to weaken a boss if they're stun or silence immune. You can buff yourself as well, but debuffing tends to have more effect because you're basically neutering the massive stat value of the boss because bosses have higher stats than your creatures you are using. However, what has changed since last time is color counter has even more power than before. Now, if your creature is effective against a certain color, you're obviously doing more damage, taking half damage, but you're more likely to land your debuffs, and in return, they are less likely to land theirs. So what this means is that if you have a Phoenix, which is red, he will be obviously absolutely a nightmare to anything green, but if you're fighting something blue, he's going to be missing his debuff a very large amount of the time. I have a fully awakened, fully leveled, highly totem, reasonably shrined up Phoenix, and I miss against level 90 blue bosses very often, and I'm just like, okay, that was silly. So because of that, it can make certain color matchups more meaningful, but also it makes Dungeon Defender bosses exceptionally weak against their color counter. They're even worse against their color counter than they were before. So that may lead to the fact that Phoenix is always going to solo a green creature. You probably could before, but now it's even more overpowering. But now Phoenix can't really solo a blue Dungeon Defender by comparison. However, another thing that has emerged is that since floor 1s are so meaningful and important, you often tend to build your teams around the fact that you need to have your special ability ready immediately. So from this given image here, you can see that I have ample number of red dots which can funnel into Phoenix. So I can actually have my Phoenix ready by turn 2. So if I just touch my Phoenix and then do the rest of my actions, my Phoenix has their special ability charged up and I can instantly burn and remove an opposing creature. Yes, they still get to take an action, but at least I remove something instantly and I can switch my focus to something else. So this is becoming a more popular strategy with people utilizing all their combo rerolls, throwing diamonds at their team if they think it's worthwhile and meaningful to acquire a team that has a lot more synergy to pick off dangerous floor 1 threats. So I've already talked about the debuffers. That's still from last time. It's still applicable to a certain extent, but team buffs, again, similar idea to debuffs, is going to help you out. Pure damage is not as great unless it's blisteringly high, because the idea is you want to try and remove a threat on floor 1. So if you can remove a threat on floor 1, you are going to have a much easier time by comparison, because let's say your single target nuke like Phoenix, for instance, it can remove any threat on floor 1 basically right away. So that's going to obviously make your life a lot easier by comparison. So things like that are going to be ranked higher because either A, you don't need to combo them with anything, or B, maybe even a 2 times, 4 times maybe, can trigger enough damage to sweep out one of the Dungeon Defenders. Obviously, creatures need to survive. Again, cards that are more durable are going to last, and because they're durable, they're going to actually make it to the end, and that's really the main goal if you don't run multiple Resurrectors. So, here are the changes that have been made. So Thunder Giant goes back up from A to S. He went down last time, now he's coming back up. And the reason is because Thunder Giant has the ability to AoE stun. And that AoE stun can incapacitate a floor 1, plus the fact that he gains mana from his counterattack is going to make it so he is just spamming his ability all the time. You can combo him gently if, say, 2 or 4 times to crush more opposing threats, but even if you just use him right away with no combo multiplier, you get to stun most of the opposing creatures. And right now, the only green creature at this point in time that I see in the higher levels of gold is the green statue, which is obviously annoying, but it's not going to kill you. The buffs are going to harm you, but Thunder Giant can at least stun basically everything else and make your life significantly easier. So the counterattack and the AoE stun are making him that much more valuable. Colossus have also bumped up dramatically from D to A. This is because I undervalued AoE before, and certain AoEs are actually very powerful, and it's really just Colossus that really fits this criteria, because Colossus now, well, he's always had the ability to wipe out, deal large amounts of damage, and that can be obviously augmented through a combo multiplier, but he does damage while ignoring defense, and he does full damage to all targets hit. A lot of other AoEs scale down in their damage being dealt. And because they're scaling down, you may only remove 1 threat. Colossus can remove all threats. And that's actually very powerful because of that ability to ignore defense and just smash his way through with his Wrecking Ball. And that's why I feel he goes up. And also the fact that I've seen a lot of high-ranking gold players start to use Colossus more and more just because they can sweep through floor 1. They funnel mana into Colossus, they combo him gently, smash through the floor. Megalodon has gone up from C to B, and this is because he actually has, along with Lich, probably arguably the highest single target instantaneous hit, along with Fire Giant. Phoenix is the delayed hit. But with Lich, Megalodon, and Fire Giant, they tend to do the most amount of damage, so they may not even need a combo multiplier to actually kill off a certain spawn, and because of that, you funnel mana into them, and they can do wonderful things. Furthermore, Lich and Megalodon have ways to regain mana back, so that means you don't have to use them right away. You could use someone else, give them some mana, Megalodon, Lich kills their thing, Lich gains mana all the time now, Megalodon gets a large amount of mana from Death Blow. So with all those factors taken into consideration, you can charge up other people while removing a threat 1 at a time. It can be useful. We'll see if it plays out. Maybe they can go up if things look better for themselves. And last but not least, the Archmage goes up from D to C. He does have one of the highest power stats in the game. He is base special ability does reasonable damage on the first hit, but then the chain gets significantly weaker as we go further and further. However, with the latest patch that's been released, he is going to be able to gain or give mana to his allies based on how many hits have been done with the chain. So you can funnel mana into him, combo him gently to remove 1 or 2 threats, and then you give mana to your team. And that's very powerful because when your cards have mana, you're going to be able to survive basically all mechanics. So I think he deserves to move up because he's now no longer as bad as he used to be. So new criteria for defense. So similar things have applied beforehand, but the biggest change is that stun was king. Stunning used to be powerful because you could chain stun and basically neuter a player's team into oblivion. Now you need to actually basically nuke them down. You can't chain stun them, so they're going to be able to take their actions. It's not going to be as powerful, as overwhelming as it used to be. And because of that, certain bosses have become semi-useless by comparison, which you'll see in a moment when I scroll down. And now color counters are more meaningful. So because of the fact that a red creature can almost no longer debuff a blue creature, it's going to make it very hard for a lot of dungeon defenders to succeed because they can almost always be soloed by their color counter, which is going to be problematic. This obviously has more implications for bosses that are very debuff reliant or heavy because they can't debuff their counter, they're going to lose all their secondary benefits, etc. So that also means white and black creatures are a little stronger because yes, their counter is, they do have a counter, but they're effective against their counter, so it neutralizes the effect that the debuff would have if it's going to be hit. So that's why things like Oathkeeper are going to be very powerful because it's weak against black, but he's also strong against them. So he may just one-shot them anyways, which is great. So the biggest changes is Cerberus should be in the center. I don't know why he wants to flip to the side, but Cerberus is now going up to A. It's because, again, white and black are a little stronger, but because of the fact that a fully awoken one is going to be hitting for crazy amounts of damage, if he's silenced and stun immune, he's going to be landing out his special. He's going to be killing off probably 1 to 2 things. The multi-hit chance from his final awakening is going to allow him to do amazing amounts of damage. He's going to be quite hard to kill, and the counterattack is going to possibly keep healing him. So he's actually quite powerful, and I would be a little more scared of him. Sludge Hulk actually moves up from C to B. Maybe he was D before, I don't recall. He moves up, though, is the point. But is it because Sludge Hulk, with the latest patch change, is going to be able to blanket the enemy team with his dot. And when his dot is on an enemy, he gains damage mitigation from them, he takes less damage from them, as well as healing from them as well when he casts his next special. So he's going to be able to sustain himself a lot better. He's going to become harder to kill. Obviously the downside is he's green, and green things tend to get obliterated by Phoenix, which is probably the most popular dungeon offensive card, so maybe that's why he can't really move up. It's hard for a green creature to move up when Phoenix is so dominant in this current day and age. But again, Sludge Hulk becomes more interesting. Fire Giant goes down because, yes, he has explosive damage, but he's only going to kill 1 target. Yes, it's a stun, but the target's dead, so it doesn't really matter. Yes, the dot applies to everyone, it can counterattack and hit them for large amounts of damage, but he's not going to kill things fast enough so he goes down. But the biggest changes I want to highlight are Thunder Giant and Blue Dragon, as well as Sandworm. They all drop down from S. They drop down 2 for Thunder and Blue Dragon because they actually have decent durability. They do more damage as well. But Sandworm drops from S all the way to C because he's so fragile. They have a really poor stat distribution, and his biggest claim to fame was the fact that he could stun the entire row, which the other 2 cannot, and then restun, 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 kill, 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 death blow, heal, and just obliterate your team. Yes, it's a lot of RNG involved, but that's the risk you took. He's squishy and fragile, but he could obliterate an entire team. Now he can't chain stun, so he just lost all of his true value and power. His damage becomes stronger when they're stunned, so the idea is a 4-dot would keep stunning you, and then you just keep dying and dying, and then he's at full health, you have 1 or 2 things left, and you can't solo it at this point in time. So it's kind of sad to see that because I've had a 4-dot Stego, I have a 4-dot Sandworm, and I have a Green Giant, and all of them have been nerfed pretty hard, so it makes it a lot harder for me to play through content for myself. And Vampire goes down. Vampire is a single target. He's too squishy, so he belongs in C. It fits the criteria better. So again, the explained changes can be read through my website, which I'll link in the YouTube description down below. So, in conclusion, these changes are exciting. I do like the fact that the stun meta has been removed, as well as the empty wave mechanics. What I don't like is that bosses have lost their ability to chain stun, and those 3 of Sandworm, Blue Dragon, and Thunder Giant all lost their biggest asset for a dungeon defense point of view, and I really hope something is remedied. I would be perfectly fine if bosses could chain stun. I don't like the fact that empty, like various floors can chain stun because you're facing multiple enemies, so you get stun all the time, and that's not fun. But if a boss has the ability to chain stun, you can plan your things out accordingly. It's just one encounter, so it's something to keep in mind that I hope VCME listens and remedies those 3 cards, because no one likes a nerf. So let me know what you think about the changes in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a fantastic day, and happy questing.